A lot of things happened in 1986, with one of them being when Venezuelan Peter Griffin was born. Growing up a big baseball fan and a very inspiring story considering his upbringing, his family had little to no money and he practiced baseball in an empty two-car garage with his older brother, Michael Sandoval. And an interesting cool fact about this man, Pablo Sandoval, is the fact that he grew up a full-on lefty. His right hand was not at all dominant, but considering his favorite player growing up was Omar Vizquel, a shortstop, Pablo made it his life's mission to do the same thing. Unfortunately, and correct me if you've seen this, but left-handed people cannot play anywhere in the infield other than first base. And no, that's not me being racist to left-handed people, it's just the reality. Again, tell me the last time you've seen a left-handed person play second base, shortstop, or third base. The only time I've seen it was my opponent the other day in MLB The Show who had a lefty playing second base, and it worked out just about as well as having Jeffrey Dahmer babysit your child. And we're not going to mention how I suck so bad I still lost said game, that's not relevant. Pablo Sandoval was going to have a hard time replicating his childhood idol being a lefty. So, Pablo decided to train himself how to throw right-handed. He just said, screw how science and the body works, I want to throw right-handed, so I'm going to throw right-handed, and as a result, he threw right-handed. And by 2002, when he was 16 years old, that's when Pablo really started making this happen, when he got noticed from scouts after going to the Dominican Republic for a scouting tournament, and soon after that, in 2003, things were looking good. A scout for the Texas Rangers told Sandoval he would come to Venezuela and sign him only to just not show up. Bro stood him up, but 2 weeks later is when a Giants scout came through and signed Pablo to a contract, and his professional career would begin in 2004 as a catcher, going on to play third base in 2005 and work his way up through the years to join the Giants in 2008, where he'd soon get his iconic Panda nickname after acrobatically jumping over a catcher to score a run during a game against the Dodgers. The first Kung Fu Panda movie had just come out, a movie I vividly remember watching in theaters. You just had to be there. So Barry Zito saw what Sandoval did, saw what he did with his weight, and said that fat son of a bitch is the Kung Fu Panda. He didn't say that first part, at least I don't think, but the nickname stuck, and it didn't matter how big the guy was in 2009. He was damn good, and after catching some games to begin 2009, this was the last time he'd ever catch. That's when he officially became the Giants' full-time third baseman. And it's also when it became clear Sandoval was going to swing his bat all the time. He did walk a decent amount, but the dude had no issue swinging away no matter where the pitch was, and hey, it worked. He hit 330 and didn't strike out much. Part of his talent and what made him so good was his ability to put the bat on the ball, whether the pitch was over the plate, outside, inside, into the stands. Pablo was going to make contact and get hits. He was not only the best hitter on the Giants in 2009, but by far the best on a team that was good but missed the playoffs until 2010 turned things around, because Sandoval struggled a lot more on a playoff Giants team, one that went all the way to win the World Series, their first in franchise history, but the Panda had a rough time. After 2009, the Giants wanted Pablo to lose weight, and it turns out being skinny was bad. But then again, it wasn't about that, because he still struggled with his weight in 2010. He didn't strike out more. His walk numbers were about the same from 2009. He just wasn't very productive. His batting average dropped over 60 points, his OPS dropped more than 200 points, so he struggled. He was still overweight, and as a result, the Giants benched him throughout most of their playoff run that postseason. The offseason, same story. The Giants made no secret, though, about wanting Sandoval to lose weight, literally making a publicized campaign called Operation Panda, which was all about getting Sandoval into better shape during that offseason. Think about that. Hey everyone, Pablo Sandoval, he's fat. We don't like it, and we want the entire world to know it. I mean, hey, that's one way to bully someone into doing what you want. And by the start of 2011, Sandoval had lost over 30 pounds and ended up having a great year. His batting average was back over 300, and he got named to his first All-Star team where he drove in a run. Who says bullying doesn't work? And as for 2012, Sandoval suffered more injury problems and had to miss a good chunk of games like he did in 2011, but was good and named to his second All-Star team, hitting a bases-loaded triple off of Justin Verlander in that All-Star game. And that's all fun and games until you realize that was Pablo Sandoval letting us all know he was Justin Verlander's worst nightmare, or Verlander stole his girlfriend or something, like Kate Upton was planning to marry Sandoval and then chose Verlander at the last second. I mean, this man only took this a step further. Skip ahead to the World Series, the Giants are back in for the second time in 3 years. This time Pablo is getting a bigger role, and he made it count, smacking not one or two, but 3 home runs in Game 1 against the Detroit Tigers, with the first 2 coming off of Justin Verlander. As the Giants went on to clean sweep the Tigers and the World Series MVP, Pablo Sandoval. And the Babe Ruth Award winner, which is awarded to the best postseason performer, Pablo Sandoval, someone who set a new Giants franchise record for most hits in a postseason with 24, which included 6 home runs. 2013 wasn't very good for the defending champs. They'd missed the postseason, and Sandoval, despite having a good year, was yet again in the middle of another bullying campaign. The Giants wanted him to lose weight, from his teammates to the general manager, and he showed up to spring training in 2014 several pounds lighter. And 7 months after that, Sandoval would play a big part in leading the Giants to yet another World Series title, breaking a record for hits in a single postseason at the time with 26. The dude just didn't stop hitting. Even when dealing with the flu in Game 4 of the World Series, pulling an MJ and putting up his 13th career postseason multi-hit game, going on to catch the final out in Game 7 with the tying run at third base. So the lesson here, if you have a personal issue, you should be bullied and shamed for it, and you'll improve in life. I'm just kidding. I guess, sorta, I don't know. But Pablo was a free agent now. The big man was able to hit the market and get a contract. And the Boston Red Sox, a team coming off a last place finish after winning it all in 2013, ended up making the stupid decision to sign Sandoval. Now, obviously, in hindsight, it's easy to say that, but all the signs, even at the time, pointed toward that deal being a mistake. Yeah, he had a great postseason. Yeah, he overall had a good career up until this point. And yeah, he was a 3-time World Series champ. And it's not like he got the craziest contract ever. It was $95 million for 5 years. But Sandoval had been in a decline for a few years at this point. His 2012, 2013, and 2014 seasons were good, but considerably down and not as elite as his 2011 and 2009 seasons. His weight was clearly an issue, but it was not only that. Sandoval's mentality and lack of care was probably the worst of it all. The man just did not care at all. He became selfish for multiple reasons, with one of them being his strange decision to trash the Giants, the only team he'd ever been with up until 2015, a team that helped get him to where he was now, and a team that he won championships with. He didn't hold back during his first spring training with the Red Sox, saying he felt disrespected by the Giants' negotiations and knew as early as spring training the year before that he would leave the team as a free agent, saying it wasn't hard to leave, even though according to him they offered more money and he left money on the table to sign with Boston. Which, why would he feel disrespected by the Giants' negotiations if they were literally giving him more money? Anyway, he didn't stop there. No. He went as far as to say the only people in the organization he'll miss are Hunter Pence and Bruce Bochy, the manager. What? That is insane. Now, obviously, I'm not Pablo Sandoval. I wasn't in his shoes on the Giants, but I find it hard to believe everyone in the organization, like every single last person other than just 2 people, deserved to be trashed. I guarantee this was at least half the Giants clubhouse when these Sandoval comments came out.
What? And by the way, Me? Yes,
What the hell did Buster Posey ever do to you? Madison Bumgarner? Brandon Belt? Brandon Crawford? Like, what? Oh, well. And it ended up being for the best for the Giants to let Sandoval go, because what followed in Boston was a complete disaster. Sandoval sucked in 2015. He was bad, and not like in a Sidney Sweeney way. No, I mean it like in actually like a real bad way. It was by far the worst season of his career. His weight quickly became a narrative, and if he thought the Giants were tough on him, whoo-wee, welcome to the Boston media and fan base. He was completely out of shape, even being taken out of a game once because of dehydration, which has some added context. Red Sox podcaster Jared Carrabis, who's had a lot of inside knowledge and connections with the team over the years, at one point said he heard Sandoval would drink Coca-Cola during games instead of water, which would obviously lead to stuff like dehydration. I don't 100% know if that's true, the Coca-Cola thing, but considering everything we do know, that doesn't seem unrealistic at all. I mean, we do know for a fact he was more interested in liking some woman's breasts on Instagram in the middle of a game, and he was suspended by the team for it. Shout out Diva Legacy, I guess, wherever you are out there. So yeah, drinking Coca-Cola during games seems like the most normal Pablo Sandoval thing to do. And by January of 2016, Sandoval switched agents, which doesn't make much sense considering he already signed his contract and sucked in 2015. What does getting a new agent do for you? No idea, but by spring training, 1 year into his time in Boston, Sandoval was already being replaced by Travis Shaw as the starting third baseman after struggling during spring training, which is also where this picture went viral. And by May 3rd, Sandoval, who was dealing with injuries and had more snap belts than hits on the season, would get season-ending surgery on his shoulder, coming back to win back the third base job just to suck again and eventually be released midway through the season. So just 2.5 years after signing his 5-year contract with Boston, playing just 161 games in 3 seasons, the Red Sox could not be happier to pay him to not play for them. So Sandoval is no longer with the Red Sox. What was next? The San Francisco Giants playing the role of Thanos.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
And Sandoval, a couple years after trashing the Giants, basically went on his hands and knees apologizing, publicly saying he regretted signing with the Red Sox. He made a mistake and he should have never left the Giants, and he learned his lesson. And he was also never the same again. He did have a couple solid seasons with the Giants in 2018 and 2019. He was actually pretty good that year in 108 games, but the Giants were not good, and by 2020, Sandoval was dropped and picked up by his third team, the Atlanta Braves, where he'd go on to sign a minor league contract for 2021, a year that ended up being his last ever in Major League Baseball. He played 69 games for the eventual World Series winning Braves, but was awful, and traded midway through the year to Cleveland, who just immediately told him to kick rocks. But because he was on the Braves for a period, he was credited with a ring for their championship, and as a result, this fat frickin' panda has more rings than your favorite player. He has 4. That's 3 more than Shohei Ohtani, 1 more than Mookie Betts. Guys like Bryce Harper and Mike Trout don't even have 1. Freaking losers. And he also has more 6-run home runs than anyone in baseball history. Yes, 6-run homers. After playing in Mexico in 2022, Sandoval played in the first ever Baseball United League, an organization based in the Middle East and South Asia. And in this league, they have what they call a money ball at bat, where each run batted in counts as 2. And he hit a homer with 2 guys on. So that's a 6-run homer. Who else can say they've done that? Not Shohei. He could never. In all seriousness, though, yeah, Sandoval was a dick in a lot of ways after signing with the Red Sox. He unnecessarily trashed the Giants, only to come crawling back to them after treating his contract as a reward for what he'd done rather than an incentive for what he'd do moving forward in Boston, becoming someone who's still hated in Boston to this day, but he still played a massive part in those Giants championships. The Kung Fu Panda thing wasn't even a joke. He really was a beloved figure in San Francisco for several years, and again, yeah, he ended up hurting his legacy, and it was never the same after he signed that contract in Boston, but I still think he deserved what he got in spring training of this past year when the Giants re-signed Sandoval to a minor league contract just so he could get a standing ovation by the fans. It was the closure that I think he needed, the appropriate closure that I think he needed. After looping a single in his final at-bat ever with the team in the Giants' final spring training game now in San Francisco, he'd leave the game to a standing ovation from the crowd before getting released a couple days later. Even through all the bad that followed the good that began his career, I still think this was a deserved, fitting end to Pablo Sandoval's big league career, even if it didn't end up as the prettiest career ever. And there's a lot of things he would have done differently. Let me know what you think, and thank you for watching.